Josh Sigman, I owe so much of my success to you. I tell the story all the time that I was a loan officer for 6 years, living on pure hustle, grind personality, and being kind of scared to death that it would all go away tomorrow. And then I meet you. And to be truthful, I had this, I had a pretty big ego because I'm this blonde chick in Reno. I'm 28, making
pretty
300.
Smart and pretty good looking.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking that. But I'm making 300 grand a year as a college dropout. And I don't know where to look to find a mentor that can help me get to the next level. What I did know is behind the scenes, it looked like a train wreck. I was stressed all the time. I was riding the roller coaster, 1 month, 18 loans, the next month, 2 or 3.
Yep.
I had no plan. I just had all hustle, all grind, and no plan. And I didn't necessarily have a goal to grow my business more because I never seen anybody that was more successful than me, if you will. I was living in a little bubble in my office. And then I go to a conference and I meet you. And you lit me up and pissed me off and immediately just caused me to go, okay, this is so exciting. I mean, if he could do it, I can do it. But I always tell the story that you were making about $1 million a year in commission. This is in 2010 when loan sizes were maybe 200 grand.
212. I actually remember
it. You made $1 million a year at 212. And I just, right from that moment, Josh said, there's no way this guy is working 3 times the hours or making 3 times the calls or has 3 times the talent or has 3 times the secrets. Gosh, if he could do it, I could do it. But what was so cool is from the minute I met you, you have just shared everything, every script, every process, every step-by-step. You've done this with me. You've done this with hundreds of other people, coaching almost your entire career as a loan officer. And so I just, first of all, have to say thank you for changing my life. And I'm so pumped about this interview and the way that we can know about you and your story, what makes you tick, and your favorite things to teach and coach other people. So welcome, Josh Sigman.
Thank you. And you're loved. And I feel the same about you, just so you know.
Do you remember the third coaching call we had where Gemma had been born? We started.
You had her under your desk.
Actually, I think the third coaching call, I was still nursing and on the couch. And you were like, so are you going to go back to the office? You didn't know how to coach me because I was literally on the couch nursing my baby for the first couple calls.
Yeah.
So
I actually remember I remember one of those first ones. It had to have been the first one. You didn't point out that your baby was with you, that Gemma was with you. And I heard the little cry. I was like, what is that? Yeah, but I did not know how to coach you because I'd never coached somebody that had a newborn on their hip on how to go get business. Since then, I've always said there's nothing more powerful than little eyes looking back at you to motivate you to make calls. So, pimp that baby out because you did, and you did it well. Buy mama and baby a new pair of shoes, and we need your help. If you say no to me, you're saying no to her. And, I think that's a powerful motivator. But yes, I do remember that. And you still crushed it that year. It's a great reminder that people use all sorts of things as excuses of why they're not going to be able to go forward this year, or this isn't my time. And it's why do you think you can't have it all? That makes no sense to me. Instead of saying why you can't, why don't you start thinking about how could you? And you did that very, very well that year.
So I have to remind you of one key moment of that year. You and I set goals at the beginning of January. Yep. And I can't remember what I had to accomplish in the first 6 months together. But you said, do you want a reward or a consequence if you don't hit your goal? And you had this consequence about hunting. You love hunting. And you're like, if I don't hit my goal, I'm not allowed to go hunting. And I was like, woof, what would be that thing for me? And it was boating. Me, I love boating more than anything.
Lake Tahoe.
And I made that commitment to you, even knowing that I had a newborn on January 22nd and coaching had just started. Yep. And I was like, if I don't do what I told you I was going to do, then I couldn't step foot on a boat for the entire summer. And the second thing that I remember is we got to the midway point and we did kind of a goal review. And I closed 70 loans from January to June. And you're like, okay, so I'm going to be your coach again. how many loans do you want to close the second half of the year? And I said 150. And you're like, 150 total? And I'm like, no. I want to close another 150. So I want to end up the year like 220. And you're like, well, okay, why don't we just make the goal a little more realistic? Like, how about you set it at 80, like 10 more than you just closed? And I don't know if you remember this, but I not only went out and closed another 150, I closed like another 156 or something like that.
Yep, you did.
And then we jumped on a call together, and you and I were coached as like co-students on a call for the next 6 years. We spent every other Thursday together.
6 years in a row.
And I remember getting your homework in the email the night before, and like I'd be in bed with Galen, and of course still have a newborn, then have another baby. And I would pull up your homework to say, gosh darn it, what is Josh closing? What are he doing? There was like, banners in the office, beat Josh. So,
that's really funny. Did you do that too? For real?
I don't think I ever put the banner up, but you better believe I talked about it.
That was a motivator. There was a guy that, kind of a similar situation when just like when you met me that first time, I had met this guy from North Texas before. And when I met the guy, I was like, there's no way that this guy's better than me. Like, there's just no way that this guy's better. And so I literally bought a picture, or I got a picture of him, and I had it made into a dartboard.
Yes.
And the entire year I would throw darts at his face when I was making calls. And it took me 1 year to beat him. But it was like, no. And that's a good reminder. The best person to compete with is the person that doesn't know it's a competition. Right. So I tell people that all the time. When you want to go win a realtor, like, just make a dare and a bet with them and say, if I do this, here, I'll give you a great example, right? Birthdays. Like, most people, the crack in their system is they're weak on systems, and they don't even say happy birthday, right?
Yeah.
And so a bet I'll do randomly with people that are pushing back, no, my guy loves me, I love my loan officer. I'm like, okay, cool. I bet you that your loan officer loves you so much that they're going to forget your birthday, and I won't. So let's make a bet right now. When's your birthday? October 17th. Okay. I'll be the first person to wish you happy birthday in October. And I bet you your loan officer doesn't even say happy birthday. Or if they do, they're going to notice it on Facebook. It'll be in the afternoon. That doesn't count. And if I'm right, you have to give me your next deal. I've won the bet 90% of the time. Because what I do is I put everyone's birthday on my phone the day before their birthday, because I want to be the first person to wish them happy birthday to stand out. So it's a great competition.
Well, we're going to break down what fuels you, what got you to be successful in the beginning,
okay,
and also a lot about how your brain works, because you really are a strategist. And I learned so much about perspective and the way to approach every situation through your lens. And it was in competing with each other and working together that we both of us just rose to these incredible heights. And so this is really fun for me. So bring me back. You grow up and you kind of have an affluent childhood. Your dad's a doctor. You're getting to do really cool stuff. So did you always say, like, I have to be successful financially? Did you think you were going to be supported? Like, what was your thought process in high school and college?
No, I hate to admit it, but I was the rich, spoiled kid. At least I thought I was. My dad is a brilliant doctor. My mom is a brilliant lady too. She's got a double PhD. And we, in my head, we lived a life of luxury, right? Like, we had private plane and boats and traveled, and I lived in 10 states and 3 countries growing up and never went without. And so, and I was never taught money skills. And so I just thought that we, obviously the family's got lots of money, and so I didn't think I had to work. And there was never a conversation about college. There was never a conversation about who would pay for college. Or what the plan is after. I was always loved. My parents were married for that, at that time, to 34 years at that point. And, I literally applied to 16 schools. I don't know if you've ever heard this story. I applied to 16 colleges, and the one I didn't get into was my first choice. I obviously wanted to go to Dartmouth because there's a mountain in the backyard that you can ski on. And that was literally the thought process. And I didn't get into Dartmouth, and I made a tournament bracket, and I flipped coins. And literally, just like, Sweet 16, I listed, and I ended up at Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas, which I'd never heard of and had no family down and didn't know why I wanted to go there. It was a small private school, and it's super expensive. I like to call it the Harvard of the South.
Okay.
And there was no good reason to go there. but I did. And I think that that's probably where that, you asked where some motivation came from. That's definitely where I think you're leaning into, which is, you know, I got there, I made some friends, and literally first semester freshman year, my dad called me up and probably said the five most meaningful sentences in my life, from a standpoint of, by the way, you don't want this call, but it worked, I guess the best way to say it.
Yep.
He said, Mom and Dad are getting a divorce after 34 years, which I did not know was happening. Um, Somewhere through this, the attorneys spent all your college funds. So you can drop out of college and go to work now, or you can work your way through college. Let me know what you want to do. And he hung up on me. And it went from like, I never have to think about money to holy shit moment. And I just joined a fraternity, and I had just made enough friends. I had just enough of an ego that was like, well, I'm not going to drop out of school. And so I remember my buddy Carson, who you know and works with you.
Yep.
He literally walked me to the student loan department and taught me how to apply for student loans to get through the second semester. Um, and I started working immediately, and I bartended and was a server and did all that stuff. And I, you know, you talk about living frugally. This is no BS. Ask Christy about it. I ate tuna fish with mustard for 3 years.
Wow.
And that was my lunch and dinner almost every single day for 3 years. And it's just like, it's cheap, and I'm a big dude. You can't see me, but I'm 6'5". And, you know, I just ate that a lot. And a lot of my friends took care of me, you know, going back to how I'm hardwired now. You had to run out of money. You know, you have your card that you can go use for the cafeteria. And I'd run out of that money by about the fourth month of a semester. And I had buddies that would never, ever make me feel bad about it. And they just swiped their card. And I had some girlfriends of mine that are dear girlfriends, like they're friends of mine to this day, that never even thought about it. They took care of me. Carson took me hunting for the first time. And I was like, I don't really want to hunt. And he's like, but we can eat whatever we kill. I was like, I want to hunt. And we went out and we shot 6 deer. And he spent all day Saturday and Sunday teaching me how to clean deer. We made steaks and ground venison, and I ate that for the next 6 months. And I was poor. And
Wow.
and I graduated college, and I graduated with a ton of debt. And my mother called me up, and she's like, hey, I feel really bad about what happened in college. Why don't you go pick yourself out a car, and that's gonna be your graduation gift. And literally, I went back to my rich kid mind, and so I went looking for Mercedes and BMWs, because damn it, I deserve it. And my now wife Christy, I remember her saying, do you remember what happened like 3 years ago? Maybe you should make a better choice here, just in case. And I had a perfectly good functioning badass Jeep Wrangler red that I loved, that I had no business selling, that was paid for, and I traded that in for a 2001 Ford Exploder. And it was $18,500 was how much it was, and the payment was $371.25. And I know that number because my mom never made a payment. And so
Wow.
I ended up now graduated with all my students, and I love my mother. It is what it is. And so I had student loan debt, and I had a car note, and I've got this hot Texas chick that I want to marry that's not going to marry a deadbeat, and I can't get a job. And so I thought I was going to be a stockbroker, right? I got into school for finance and economics. And of course, now I want to make money. And so, of course, go to New York and be a stockbroker. Turns out, A, Texas girls don't follow you out of Texas, and B, New York Stock Exchange does not hire B students. And I was both of those things. And so, and also it was 2000. And if you guys remember, 2000 was when the tech stocks crashed. And so it wasn't really a great time to go into it. And so the only job I could get was in insurance. And so I lucked into a commission only job right out of college. And that was probably the very beginning of it, you know.
How many years were you in insurance, Josh?
2 years.
2
2
years.
years of selling death and dying.
And you learned early from a mentor, you needed to make X number of calls and book X number of appointments. What were those metrics that you learned early that helped you survive?
I mean, the office, I'm going to try to tell you what they wanted the office to do. And I did 5 or 10 times that. So really simply, the goal was, so I'll just tell you what mine were, because I can't remember what the office wanted because it was low. We had 2 days a week. We went into the office to make calls to fill appointments 3 days a week. And my first answer is that I wanted 7 appointments set on a day for those 3 days. So 21 appointments a week. because I knew of the 7, 2 would no show or cancel. So I'd end up with 15 opportunities and that I could close 10 of the 15. And so, and that took 90 days to figure out, like, for me, my conversion ratio was that. And so I want to say, like, most people were calling 20 people a day, and I was calling 100 people a day or as many as it took to set the numbers. And it goes back to the non-negotiable, right? Like, what's the minimum non-negotiable per day, which I think most salespeople lack. It's like, I don't give a shit if you don't feel like it. Like, did you hit your number or not today? Like, I remember a very basic one in lending when I first started was just get a lead a day. They're everywhere. You can walk down the street and get a lead. I did. You can go to the gas station, get a lead. I did. Like, they're everywhere. So just get a lead a day. But back then it was 100 calls minimum. And my sales mentor had taught me, and one thing that I still do to this day is, he said, Josh, because I'd ask him, it's actually a pretty cool story. Mike Arredondo was my first sales mentor. He's a legend. He's very, very, very ill today. He's probably, like, he's very, very ill. So I need to go say my goodbyes. But that guy changed me. Like, I had a series of really good, lucky, fortunate, like, mentors. And I remember I walked in his office day one, and I was like, hey, Mike, thank you for hiring me. Tell me what to do to be successful, and I'll do it. And he said, get the hell out of my office. Everyone says that they want to know, but no one does the work. Don't waste my time. And I left, and I walked back in 15 minutes later. It's like, Mike, I'm sorry if I caught you at the wrong time. But really, like, I am poor. You are rich. I will do whatever you say. Like, tell me what it takes to be successful, and I'll do it. And he sent me off with my tail between my legs the second time. And I realized what he was doing. And so I walked back in, and mind you, Mike is like 5'5". He had a, 10-foot tall chair and mahogany desk. So he sat up way up here. He had like a little child's chair for in front of the desk. So he's looking down on me, and I'm 6'5", and I'm looking up at this 5'5" guy. And he said, Josh, the secret to success is you got to talk to 10 new people a day every day. If you do that, you'll die rich. And so literally and this isn't exaggerating, everyone that knows me knows this is true. I'd talk to 100 people a day every day for the first 15 years of my career. Like, I would just bang the phone, not because I liked it, not because I was good at it, but I was like, if 10 is good, 100's better. I trust this guy. I want to do this. And so I did it. And that's why I was so successful so quickly in insurance. And, my buddy had joined the mortgage industry. And after 2 years of talking about death and dying, I was like, screw this place. And I love that place. But, I was aging very rapidly. Insurance, the people that should buy insurance don't want to. And the people that want to buy insurance are usually sick. Yeah. And that's a very hard dynamic. And I've got a lot of empathy that I didn't realize I had. Anyways, mortgage in Latin is morte gage, which is death grip. So I was like, it's a lateral move. I can leave insurance and go to mortgages. And I did. And I knew nothing else other than to apply what I'd learned in insurance sales to mortgages. And so I had a pretty quick start, I guess,
So let's talk about your natural archetype. Obviously, it's interesting to me that you got the rug pulled from you. Yep. And you had no other choice.
And thank you, mother and dad. Just so you know, I'm not mad at you. Thank you, mom and dad.
I have to think that there's still this part of you that would have wanted to become the best and compete and provide stability, because you're such a provider, regardless whether your college is paid for and you screwed around all 4 years and then had to now go do something. But the point is you had your back completely against the wall. And I think so many people right now in 2025 are back at that place. They may have been a loan officer for 20 years and have had many years of success, but the last 2 years of doubt and distraction and, 1,000 other circumstances have put them back in debt, owing money to the IRS, feeling like a failure, questioning, what else am I going to do with my life? Like, I've been doing mortgages for 20 plus years. I don't know anything else. And their back is against the wall. Are you coaching people like this? And what are you saying to people to get them to do what they need to do?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. I think that the last 3 years in this industry has been brutal for a lot of people. A lot of people live in the past. And so they're not, a lot of people, I think here's my best analogy I can give you to explain how I coach people around this subject. It's like, look, dude, salespeople are lions. Lions don't hunt every day. Lions go get really freaking hungry, and then they maul shit, and then they gorge themselves, and then they sit under a tree for about a week and they don't do anything. And then eventually they get a little bit hungry and they start walking around. Then they finally start to starve to death and they go maul shit and they eat it, right? And if you look at 2020 and 2021, the people that really enjoyed that, like the highest level of success, because they were already ready for it, they were 5 years in the business or more, so they could really take advantage of that. They just really gorged themselves. And so I think that the majority of people that were really licking their wounds didn't do shit to change in late 21 and most of 2022. And they blamed and they did nothing. And you saw a lot of people moving companies for sign-on bonuses as an example, primarily because it couldn't possibly be them. It must be the rates. It must be the company. It wasn't them and their lack of activity. They'd forgotten what it was like to hunt, right? And I think a lot of people started to get back to work in 2023. And then what they found is that you were working 3 or 4 times as hard for half the pay. In 2024, you've got now most of the people that, even that though they might have really worked hard in 2023, a lot of people that never learned money skills burned through their reserves. And so you've got 70-ish% of the industry that didn't make it, right? And now who's left? What no one talks about is, we all know history enough that we know who won D-Day, the Battle of D-Day, right? We know that, yeah, we won. And yet if you talk to grandpa or grandpa's friends that were there, the ones that lived were still walking wounded. Like, it wasn't a big celebration when they won that day. It was like they were shell-shocked. And that's what 2024 was. Like, I think that the ones who are left are like, holy shit, this is like, we are here, and what is here, and this is the new norm, and we survived it. And so 2025, for what I see and what I've been trying to lead by example in is, guys, you should have started working 2 years ago, and you should have adapted 1 year ago. And like, this is, every day is a weekday or a weekend. You get to choose. I just have weekends all day, every day. So yes, it's an uphill battle, but there are lots of new people, the people that didn't go through 2020 and 2021, that they didn't know better. And as a result, they're crushing it and they're taking your toys home, right? So us old veterans that, man, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't feel like I should have to make cold calls anymore. I don't feel like get over it, because the new kid on the block that is learning the sales skills and is eager beaver to go make their own name, they're crushing it in real estate and in lending. And so I think it goes back to, you got to find that chip again of, why are you doing it in the first place? Who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for you? Are you doing it for your team? Are you doing it for your family? Are you doing it for the charity you support? Are you doing it to lead by example? What are we doing this for every day? Because it's a long, lonely day, and we're not ditch digging. So like, get over it. Like, this is fun. We get to do this. We get to help people, and we're paid awfully good for what we actually do. And I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I think has happened in the last 3 or 4 years, is Lions licking their wounds, survived D-Day or are out of business, and now they're hunting again.
Yes, absolutely. So your archetype is a trust builder and a technician.
Yes.
And when we talk about technician,
by the way, your little thing there is pretty damn cool. I read it last night.
Thank you.
If you guys have not taken her test, I did take it. It's very, very, very good.
Thank you. And it really, like, the primary and secondary archetype is really a magical combination when you think about it. There is a period of our life where we're in survival and we're just trying to figure it out, and we're going in every direction possible. We're shooting a shotgun, and like, we don't know what's working. We're fishing, we're putting every lure and every bait and every net and everything out there.
Yep.
And then as we start figuring out what we're good at, now we start going from a shotgun approach to maybe a handgun, and now we're spear fishing. We're not net fishing, right? And then eventually we are becoming so valuable. We're becoming a lighthouse, and we're attracting the business in instead of going out and chasing it. And so you as a technician, Josh, yes, I think that you are damn good at being able to look at a loan and read tax returns and strategize the best financing possible with, buy downs and, all the different things that are the art of the deal. But what I've really learned from you as a technician is your strategic thinking on how to actually create wins for other people. What I identified when I met you is that you really live by the Zig Ziglar motto, which is, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have anything that you want. And you collect people, and you're really freaking loyal. How long have you been married?
21 years.
How long is the average tenure of the person on your team?
9 years.
And what about your best agents? How many have been working with you?
My third agent. So my number one agent is Jim Mamone. He is still in business. Technically, he's damn retired. I get one deal a year from him to this day. My number two is Cindy Broshot, who I don't work with. Number three is Lisa Munoz, who just got me into my biggest MSA of my life. And I still work with her. So like the entire time is the answer.
So when you say 1, 2, and 3, these are the
not like that's like my first agent, my second agent, my third agent, not number one, number like they're like the entire time I've been a loan officer, 22 years now, they've been loyal.
And so we're not digging a ditch. What would you say we're doing? We're building. Like I think one brick at a time. What do you think it is?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's building, and you can't look at it any other way. It's got to be, you've got a big net, absolutely, because the very beginning of business, we have to catch whatever we can to survive. But we can't treat all relationships equally, and that's the problem. And really understanding, for example, and it took me a lot of years. It was recently that I really understood what an avatar really is. It's not a blue person, but like really diving into who your people are and like what you're attracted to in a business partnership. But if you look at my agents that I've got working with today, it's like they're my avatar. They're all very, very, very similar in how they speak, how they run their business, what they value. 48 of the 60 of them I coach like that. So they're coachable and they're like really, they're into growing. And I'm attracted to people like that.
Tell me about your avatar. What do they talk about? How do they think?
Yeah, if I were to line them all up side by side, for the most part, they're late 30s to late 40s women that are working women that have families, that do have kids, that do value personal time, because I value personal time. So guess what they're not doing at 10 o'clock at night is they're not calling me because they're at home with their wife or their husband and kids. They're very, they typically are all readers. They typically are all interested in growth. And like I said, 48 of them I coach. So they're very coachable. They don't have it figured out. I don't have it figured out, right? We're all working on this together. They are achievers as a whole. More importantly, they're doers, not dreamers, right? So I appreciate anyone saying, yeah, I'm going to make $1 million. And the follow-up question is, what are you doing about it, right? I appreciate somebody lamenting that they're out of shape. It's like, well, what have you done today to fix your body? So I like working with doers. And then strategically speaking, I would say that so there's two relationships. It's a long-winded answer, but it's important to understand for my avatar. There's people that work with you because you're valuable, and that does not require a lot of time. It does not require a relationship at all. Like if you're super valuable, like you're valuable and they'll send you business. And then there's some people that work with you because of relationship, because you're their sister, or because they just love you and you're lots of fun when you have drinks together. And what I found is that I attract, and my avatar always starts with value. It does not start with relationship. So I lead with value and I love with value, and I find them to be valuable too. And as a result, over time, we form a relationship. And it's important to finally get to both, because if you have somebody that you love as a friend, but there's somebody that comes by way more valuable, you're going to lose the friend. And on the flip side, if you're super valuable and then they find somebody else that is like, there's lots of loan officers. And if they find somebody in their prayer group that's also a loan officer and as valuable as you're going to lose them because of the lack of relationship. So we have to work on both over time. But that's really my avatar as a whole, if that answers your question.
It really does. And I just have to ask, why women?
Well,
they like your beard.
Can multitask better. First of all, I like women. Start there. I'm just joking. I've been married for 21 years. My wife would totally appreciate this conversation. And she loves you, Shayla.
I love her.
No, seriously, I think that most women multitask better. I think women are actually more coachable than men most of the time. Not all the time, most of the time. I find that sometimes egos clash men to men.
Yep.
Like I have nothing to prove, and I don't think the women do either. I think ego is expensive and gets in the way sometimes. And I do work with a good half dozen men that are also my avatar, but they fit all the other boxes, right? I was saying, as an average, you line them up, probably 35 to 45-year-old women that are mothers and are married. Like
I don't think you've ever done this, and it's silly as hell that you've never done this, but like you could have said, look what I created in Shayla Gifford.
That's you.
Do you want to be like, Shayla, let me coach you? I mean, I don't think you've ever done that because you're not a marketer. That if you were a marketer archetype, you would probably go, let me give you like 6 examples of women I've coached that have gone from here to here. And that would have been a tactic you would have used to get people to become, in your inner circle, because you're a
Shayla,
trust builder.
Nikki, Haley.
I know, dude, you have so many. Okay. So this is what's fun, but you're not a marketer, period.
I'm not,
True and simple.
I'm not. Yeah.
And so your technician is your ability to think strategically. So typically a trust builder, where they get caught in driving scale, is that they really like that personal time for themselves, but they also like quality time in a relationship. They are comfortable more one-on-one in small group, and they convert at a really high level, but they generally keep a small circle. So how did you use your strategic skills and your hustle and your drive to scale a trust builder? And now, of course, you're coaching 48 of them, but that's not where you started. Like,
yeah, actually, it's a great question. I was one of the first people in the industry to really build a big team. Yes, I had some mentors that had the doctor nurse kind of philosophy. I get that. But what I've always thought is, okay, as a salesperson, if I really embrace the idea that my number one job is to make it rainmakers, measured by leads, right? So they're like, above all else, my job is to do that. And that the only way to grow leads is to maintain relationships, which goes back to that piece of my, how I'm hardwired. Then I should not, even if I'm capable, I should delegate everything else. And so when I built my team, it really came down to, I am perfectly capable of calling leads and tracking down leads and converting them. And I'm probably better than 99% of anyone listening to this. And it's not my primary job. And so I hired people for that. And the flip side is, I'm perfectly capable of tracking down documents and fixing problems. And I hired processors anyways. And the thing that we never talked about is, and I always looked at marketing the same way. It's like, look, I can personally go out and network and market and go talk to 150 freaking agents a week myself, but I could hire somebody to go do that and narrow down to, hey, here's 5, Josh, that are your avatar that you need to meet with, right?
Yep.
And so I hired a marketing rep, and everyone says they don't work. It's like, yeah, they do. I've done it for 17 years straight, no breaks. One of them I had for 15 years, one I had for 10 years. Still have her, right? So basically every aspect of my business, I wanted to outsource. What I didn't do is I didn't hand off before I trained them well as a technician, right? So for example, in marketing, Bryn was my first marketing rep. I literally made her follow me around for a year, right? Wow. So the training was a 2-year cycle, and no one believes that it took me 2 years to train her this way. But the first 6 months I said, do nothing, say nothing, follow me, right? To learn she wasn't in the industry. She didn't speak the language. So follow me, see what I say, how I say it, what my value propositions are, all that. And then we'd talk to and from appointments. And then the next 6 months I said, okay, your job now is to set appointments. You're going to come on the appointments, but say nothing. So she'd set the appointments. We'd both go to them. We'd leave. I'd say, how did I get her? How did I not get him? Where did I win? Where did I lose? And then the next 6 months, she would set the appointment. She would run the appointment. But if she got stuck, we had I forget what it was, but it was like a refrigerator word, a safety word, where bail me out, Josh. Like, I don't feel like I can close this. Help me out. And so she would have to invite me in the conversation. I would say nothing until she invited me in the conversation to help her close it. And then the last 6 months, she would set the appointment. She would run the appointment. I would never bail her out, which means I watched her crash and burn a lot. And on the way home, I'd tell her, this is where you lost it. This is what you forgot to say. This is what you didn't pick up. And that's why she was so damn good for all those years, is she was trained appropriately. So the technician piece was, yes, I know intuitively I need this. Yes, I know I need to be at the point of sale more, but I got to delegate, and not just delegate to anyone. I think in our industry where we suck is we are cheap, with other people's monies. Yeah, we'll go on that sales trip with guilds, right? Like, they'll pay for me to go down to Mexico and I'll spend a ton of money. But then we're like, somebody, our branch manager says, hey, you need to hire an assistant and split them with me. And like, no, I don't want to spend $1,500 so we'll go cheaper than that. It's like, we're stupid. We're stupid salespeople, right? So the technician piece of me was, no, I need to pay more and I got to train more. And that way I can truly leave it and move on. And the last piece of that I think is a missing link for a lot of people is they just hire enough, but never hire for the vision. And that was something I know you and I talked about a lot while we were being coached together is I always hired one or two people ahead of what I needed for the vision, right? Because if you're trying to grow and you don't want to like start, stop, go backwards, start, stop, go backwards, like, if you think about a heartbeat, it's like this. And a lot of businesses are like that. They kind of go up and down. You have to hire for the vision. And so you got to take some gambles and put some money out there and bet on yourself. But, I've always believed like, bet on this horse. We'll get there for sure. You're somebody I would for sure bet on. It just is. You got to choose yourself every once in a while.
So I want to break down a couple of those things because the choke point for a technician is absolutely delegation.
Yeah. Because no one can do it as good as us.
Exactly. And so you chose the result and growth over perfection and control.
Yes.
And that is incredible. Was there something that made you do that? Was it?
Yeah. Actually, I can tell you exactly. Todd, our buddy Todd, literally told me one time, he said, anytime anyone can do anything 90% as good as you hire them. I was like, okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, 90%. He said, and here's why. Hire two of them. They'll be better than you. That was it. If I got two people that are 90% as good as me side by side, they're going to outperform me on average over time. The two of them come together. And so that was a big one for sure. And the other one that really stuck out to me that I've tried to anchor is never have an Achilles heel. So when you think about your own team, anyone that's listening that has a team, a branch, if you have one person on your team that if they left, you'd be screwed.
Right.
That's an Achilles heel. And so that makes you a weak leader. Why? Because you have to beat around the bush. You're going to tolerate stuff you wouldn't normally tolerate. You like worry about feelings versus, like, yes, I care about feelings, but you got to be logical in business, not necessarily emotional in business. And so I always protected against Achilles heels by having two and two and two and two of all my positions, because I never want to be stuck with tolerating mediocre behavior.
So I think this boils down into control and a feeling of, internal power, because if you don't make the calls, if you don't do your number one job and make it rain, you don't have the luxury of hiring one person, let alone two people to have redundancy. And I think in knowing you for so long, you're always like, I don't want to be owned by anyone. I don't want anyone real estate agent to have that, leverage over me. I don't want to have any one teammate to be toxic and have leverage over me. Is that true for you? Am I putting words in your mouth, or how do you say that?
No, and it took time. I think that I was a poor leader early on, just like I think a lot of people are. And I learned the hard way by not having hard conversations early enough, and the toxic behavior and losing teammates because A players don't tolerate C players. Like I learned that lesson too. So I'm not like perfect at this. But yeah, you're exactly right. It's, we've talked about if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Yep. And I told you before this call that like I've deselected probably 30, 40 agents in the last 2 years that I love them as people, but we're not good business partners, right? And it's not about the money. This job and our lives are too short, and this is too hard to not love what you do and who you do it with. And the flip side is that, really going back to separative control, the belief that the leader is responsible, like truly responsible for the well-being of the loan officers and the team, more importantly as well, is something that really carried me through the last couple of years. So like one thing I'm super proud of is after the slowdown after 2021, I didn't let go a single person, not one person that I had in my branch that I let go. It was like, I'll outwork this. Like I will figure it out. And so, you asked the question earlier, like what really motivates you? Well, I think at different times, it's different things, but my team retired me and I got to retire my team. I can't retire my team if I fire my team. Right. So, and it's certainly, I can't, yes, there are times that people have to make hard business choices to let people go, but it can't be because you freaking mailed it in. And I think that a ton of loan officers in our industry and a ton of companies in our industry, I mean, they screwed their people. Like, call it what it is. They got fucking rich in 2020 and 2021, and then they didn't want to work. So the people that made them rich, they were willing to let go because they weren't willing to do the work. I think that's gross. And so I just didn't want to fall on that side of the aisle. And I think that as a result, I've got some crazy loyalty, because I saw what I was willing to do and that I was willing to, like, I don't have to work.
Yeah.
You know that you don't have to work either. I love to work, but I'm going to work with people that I love to work with, and I'll protect my own.
So one
That's
other
super
thing I
important
want to talk about is the choke point of a trust builder. That
to
is
me. Okay.
like, if I get too many people, I'm not going to be able to give them the love and attention.
Yeah.
And they're going to feel I'm too busy for them. And they're going to feel like I've passed off to other teammates. Like, how did you get uncomfortable with going from like, these are my 10 homies, like these are my people,
Yeah.
to like, to having more? First of all, what happened to you to expand?
Yeah, you lose some people, right? Like,
Yeah.
the truth is just because, like, you've heard this in marriages, right? Like sometimes you outgrow your spouse, and at least you hear this a lot. Like I'm still married 21 years later, and we're very different. But I think with partnerships, for sure, I always say a partnership is marriage without love, and how many marriages make it? So when you go back to, the couple of steps that were super big changes to the relationship in business. The first one would be for me going from an individual loan officer to a small team, right? And and having the conversation, whether I did correctly or not, having the conversation with my business partners that this is my new process, and explaining what's in it for them. At the first, I said it was about me, right? I need more time. I need to be able to go make more calls. And like, that's not what you tell a referring partner, just so you know. But if it's about them, it's like, look, I don't want to be in this lunch with you, and a lead that you need me to follow up with is not being called for an extra hour because I want to have quality time with you. That's why I hired this person in the front, not to hand them off, but so they can get the lead right away, right? Because you and I both know that my job is making more money, and I can't do that if we don't convert that lead for you quickly, right? So explaining what's in it for them. But I would tell you that going from a small team, from a loan officer to a small team, I probably lost 25% attrition of my realtors because they wanted me. In fact, Cindy Broshot was one of them. I said those three names.
Yep.
Cindy was one of them, right? Then going from a small team to a big team, right? So as great question. Do big realtors want to be called by your assistant?
Nope.
The answer is no, right? So, I also told you I've got a marketing rep. So then how do you navigate that, and what's acceptable, what's not, and creating those rules of engagement? But certainly going into, you and I have both done 600 units in a year. There's a lot of agents to work with. There's a lot of deals, and not everyone's getting a lot of love. And so when I got to my peak, 600 units in a year, I would say that's also when I lost a good 50% of my clientele. And what I was left with was realtors that appreciate teams. Guess why? Because they were teams. These are realtors that actually want to grow themselves and have teammates themselves and understand buyers agents and understand transaction coordinators, just like me. So like, when I love that, Shayla, you piped up and said, hey, why don't you just say like, I'm your avatar? You're my avatar. I should parade you around like in front of me, right? When you think about your avatar as agents, they all are small teams or big teams, but they value teams, right? But I had a big attrition there for sure. And now, that I've made the decision to not do loan apps every day. I've been doing them 30 hours a week, every week for 20 years. And I love this, and I love coaching more than I love doing a loan app. And I've got a best friend of mine that I trained myself for the last 18 months to do my loan apps. And it doesn't mean I'm handing off. It means like, it takes me 15 minutes to do a loan app. It's not that hard. I can train anyone to do a loan app, and I will still handle my VIPs, my very top clients, my top 10. Like if they want to use me, no problem. I'll do it for a minute. And I've already lost a few agents, and I'm okay with it. And so going back to deselecting, it's like, I don't think that chasing the almighty dollar and trying to push square pegs through round holes ultimately ends in long-term relationships.
Yeah.
And so that's that piece for me that it's funny you said it that way. I've come to peace with. They like me or they don't, and I like them or I don't, and I don't have to stress out about it either way. Like it's going to work out or it's not. There's plenty of people. I don't need more friends. I love friends, but I want to pour into people that appreciate me too.
Well, I want to just say two things in observing you is number one, you also got rugged early in your career.
Yeah.
You had a major builder that was a large percentage of your business that you poured everything into.
90%.
90% of your business
90%.
You got rugged. So a trust builder sometimes just has to wait until they get rugged because they put all of their energy into 2, 3, 4, 10 great partnerships, and 2 of them leave the business, relocate, die,
or don't
hire
work
someone
like the
else,
last 2 years. They just don't work.
or they don't
It
work.
happens.
Yeah. So I think you expanded your network out of a necessity. And again, Josh Sigman will not be powerless. Josh Sigman will not let the market control him. He will not let any one partner control him. He's always wanting to be in the driver's seat. That is a rainmaker. And so you had to get comfortable in the uncomfortable, which is that in your top 10 every year, this was something that totally changed me. You said, Shayla, every year my top 10, I lose 2 or 3 of my top 10 every year. And this is you loving on them, coaching them, calling them, doing lunch and learns, happy
referring
hours.
only them.
It's just a fact of life that people are going to not evolve with you or they change. So thank you for bringing those things up, because I know that the people listening that are a trust builder, it's some of these just tiny mantras and perspectives that can completely unlock them. And especially for all of us technicians, you and I being the same, really, really leaning into delegation and trusting yourself is really important. And then realizing that your business is just going to keep evolving over and over and over again. And you just kind of got to love the game that it's always evolving. That's how it becomes a weekend. Final thought I want to bring in is that your top 10 now, today, 2 of those are not realtors. Can you tell us about those business partners and how you landed them?
Yeah. So, tell me what I can't do. Start there. So, I've heard too many times by too many, actually former mentors too, that, lenders' primary source of business should be realtors or builders. And that's true that that's where you would start. But back in 2020, I wanted to teach people that you don't have to be beholden to realtors and builders. And the reason why I was having that conversation is because of this directionality of realtors being paid for business, right? So buying leads, buying Zillow leads, buying realtor.com leads, pay to play. And I just hate it, right? Because we're either partners or we're not. I don't pay for business. It's like, I don't pay to sleep with my wife. I'm not going to pay, it's like, it's real simple.
Yes.
Like we work together, we don't. And so the business partnership thing, my financial planner is my number 1 referring partner last year, not a realtor, a financial planner. And basically what it started with was, the technicality of how you do it, or the actual strategy would be, make a list of 10 to 20 people that are business partners that you believe that would be complementary to your business, right? So CPAs, financial planners, attorneys, insurance agents. When I say attorneys, divorce attorneys, estate attorneys, painters, plumbers, electricians. Shoot, my landscaper has given me multiple referrals the last 2 years because they're at the point of sale. All of a sudden, the front gets really pretty right before they list the house, right?
Yep.
So my point is like, create the list. You don't have to have people on the list. You just have to know what you want for your list, because it's a value add to your clients and to your business partners, right? Then with that, you start targeting who you already know, fill in the gaps, start with your cell phone. Your cell phone has like 6,000 names in it. You probably know somebody in all those fields. And then the big star, the asterisk is, I want to be the number 1 referring partners for all my business partners. That's my number 1 goal. I want to give more referrals than I get. Because it's interesting that you point this out, and it's most likely true. It's a control thing. When I know I'm their number 1 business partner, can I ask for anything?
Yes.
Yeah. Because what do realtors do to us? If they know they're our number 1 referring partner, they tend to ask for more, right? So I don't want somebody else to have the upper hand there. So I wanted to be the number 1 referring partner. And so I did. I started finding money, in this case, for my financial planner. Every time somebody wanted to put down, buy it in cash, and say, look, have you talked to financial planner about putting down 30% and what happens with your net worth? I'm not a professional. Talk to my financial planner. And we found them probably at this point, probably 50 million in referrals literally from me.
Wow.
And so it's a big deal. And so I've been hounding him on, can I rely on you for a referral a quarter? And in every year, it's been more and more. 2 deals first year, maybe 4 deals second deal. He was an account. Then it's like 6 or 7. And last year, I closed more than 12. It was like every month, like clockwork, getting a big deal. And these are not little, like one of them was a $3.2 million deal. Like I don't do those in San Antonio, Texas, right?
Yes.
And then a big piece is, you got to ask, like, okay, thank you, and why, right? And it wasn't because I was sending referrals. I was an element and made them think about it better. But for me, the financial planner was, I'm his defense. I'm a loan officer, and rich people go typically to Wells Fargo Finance or Chase, private wealth division, or Bank of America private, right? And after they close that deal, the next thing that they do is ask for the transfer of money and assets. And so Eric is my financial planner. What he does is he literally finds out early, hey, you're thinking about buying or selling real estate this year? You are? Oh my God, you're a very complex deal. I want to make sure that you get white glove service. Josh Sigman is going to take care of you. I'm going to send over all of your docs to him, and it's for defense, right? And yes, I take great care of his clients, but that's the why. So now when I'm trying to attract other financial planners, that's that's what I'm leading with, right? But I think it goes back to strategically for all of us in any area we want to develop, stop saying why you can't and start asking how could you, right? And I think that is the tale of a technician is like when the underwriter says you can't do it, it's like, are you sure? And then you go back and read go read the FHA handbook again, or talk to 3 friends, or what if we did this, and what if I paid off this? Like, how could we do this? Not why. You don't tell me no. Just that doesn't aggravate me. That like excites me,
Exactly.
because we're gonna figure it out together.
Thank you for sharing that story, because we all have the opportunity to pass out more business. And
Yes.
I remember you taught me to be intentional before every meeting. And what
Yes.
is the ideal outcome of
That's
this
right, you
meeting?
remember. So
I
happy.
remember everything you said. I wanted to be you, and I
That's awesome.
did it. And the ideal outcome is not just,
One
get them to
thing.
say yes or have a great loan app meeting.
That's right.
It is, I can generate a referral. I can give a referral to 2 or 3 people. I can get them to rave back to their realtor. I can get them to write an online review. There's literally 5 or 6 outcomes that can come from every meeting. And this is why it's not just about quantity. Yep. Josh and I have both coached salespeople for well over a decade. And we have seen some people do this crazy quantity. They're calling 100 people, they're calling 40 people, but they're not getting the result. Right. And it's because they're not being strategic and effective. They're trying to just be efficient and just check off a lot of boxes instead of like, how do I make this one really count? And if you are in every meeting and situation thinking about how to serve other people, from the landscaper to the electrician to the roofer to whatever, and you have that giver's gain mentality, and you're bold enough to keep asking for the business and finally figuring out why they would give it to you. And you found with your financial advisor, when it clicked, is he uses you as defense. He doesn't want to lose his clients to Chase or Wells Fargo. Now you've got them, and you're doing 12 deals a year that are highly referred, clients that respect you, big ass loans, and we can all do that. So Josh, this has been so fantastic. You are the true Rainmaker. You wear that every single day. You're not confused about who you are and what your job and your duty is. You call 10 people a day, every day on your way to work. And year after year, you can consistently close 20 loans a month. You're just the real deal. And you now own your own coaching company. So as we tick off here, how can people follow you, find you, or think about coaching with Josh Sigman?
I appreciate that. Yeah. Impact Elite Coaching is where you'll find me and us. And I love that we're in parallel. What you do and what you teach is not what we do and we teach. And it's just 2 different avatars, which is great. And I'd love to talk with anyone that's interested in more direct business planning, strategic thought, and high accountability is what we deal with at Impact Elite Coaching.
Well, Josh, I love you. Galen loves you. I love Christy and your kids. And I really appreciate today's topic, because we talked about why you do what you do, what drives you, how you think about scale, how you found breakthrough. And I know there was just a ton of value here. We could, you and I could be on for like 6 hours. I want to do it again.
Like, this is fun. I was like reliving some moments with you. Like, let's do this again. I'll have fun with it.
Cool. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being in my life. See you later.
You're loved.